This video is brought to you by Voyager Aviation, a fully accredited Canadian aerospace company focused on the operation and in-service support of modern platforms from special missions aircraft to unmanned systems. Voyager is proud to support Canada, the Canadian Armed Forces, and allies and partners around the world.
We were so happy and pleased. Us political geeks, we're in Ottawa, we're sitting around the boardroom table and we're watching the cabinet appointments happening. And when you walked in, I may have cheered, I don't know, but it was great to see. And it's not just because you're a great person, which you are, but as Greg had talked about, it's the experience that you have. Pilot, you're a veteran, business owner in the aerospace business, broader than that, which has been great. Member of Parliament, chair of the Defense Committee, phenomenal experience. So we were just absolutely thrilled. So again, congratulations. But my first question, very tough, and we're going to get a little bit easier. But first question is, you've been in the role now for a few months. What's the main takeaways? How has it been? Are you enjoying it? What are the big surprises? I'm accused of asking a lot of multiple questions, but take that wherever you want to go, and then we'll get a little bit tougher here.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I have been coming back to ADSE in different capacities. I was here in a Hornet for an air show at one point. I was here in a tutor at one point. I think we may have participated when I was running Skytrack. I was here as an MP, and I'm here again in a different role. So thank you for having me back. This is an important group of folks to share some time with. What have I found? I've been spending essentially most of my time over the past 3 months, that's happened very quickly, engaging with industry. So I had a perception of what was going on out there, but you don't know until you know. And I've been trying to take as many meetings as I can. I've been out touring around. We're all expected to do that. I love it. This is right up my alley. When the Prime Minister asked me to take on this role, he was kind of like, this is what I'm thinking. And I'm like, I'm in. Thank you very much. I was like super jazzed to be given the opportunity, and engaging with industry in the interim to the path to building out the DPA, and we're getting very close, and we can talk more about that, is super important. I mean, I need to understand from you folks what's going on, what's working, what's not. I mean, I've learned some new things that I didn't know on the what's not working side. I learned some things that I learned that I didn't know on what you'd like to keep, what needs to go. I know you've been working with, some of you have been working with Wendy Hadwin and the Defense Industrial Strategy, ADM policy, and I think ISED's working on that together. But understanding what the task is at hand before the authority and the machinery of government changes, and the DPA is launched officially with, levers to pull to get this done, is what I've been up to.
Well, it's been great. I think we got in to see you the first couple of days, and I know you've been very active across the board, which has been great. Minister, just so you know, we talked about it before, but we had great discussions. Wendy, the deputy, a lot of it is this cultural change piece, which we see very much being driven by the Prime Minister, which has been great. Huge, opportunity and optimism amongst the industry, and I've seen a sea change with the Prime Minister's leadership, specifically with respect to focus of defense, the 2%, 3.5%, 5%. So very welcome from industry. With respect to the Defense Procurement Agency, a lot of optimism about that also. Can you shed some light? Where do you guys see, where's this going to lie? How is this going to be operationalized? We've got a lot of different competing departments that we've talked about. So just give us some of the thinking behind that procurement agency.
Sure. So, conceptually, and what was promised in the campaign platform, and what has been tried by several prime ministers, or at least talked about, Stephen Harper talked about it, Trudeau talked about it, is a single point of accountability for defense procurement. So right now it's decentralized, so all the places that we all are familiar with, ISED, D&D, PSPC, all have a role to play, and industries running around all these organizations trying to figure out what needs to be done to facilitate getting involved in big spends or small spends. So DPA brings single point of accountability, so it makes it easier for industry. I'm hoping we become the one-stop shop for industry in the procurement cycle. Once we have someone's won a contract and we're moving forward with capability delivery, this is all I do. I want to make these billion-dollar projects can have problems. It's just natural. These things happen. I'll be in the weeds to help facilitate companies delivering for the government of Canada. So if there's a problem, and I suspect there may be a problem, there always is a problem, let's resolve it together and get things moving quickly. That's the name of the game. Open, fair, and transparent. I know that's kind of the mantra of procurement. No one's ever said timely. We are trapped outside the technology cycle now with procurement. That's a really bad place to be. Like, it takes a decade to deliver a major capital program that you cannot exist in that space at the speed things are changing. We need to tighten that up, and we will tighten it up. And then once we're moving down the road and someone's won a contract, we're working towards delivering the thing that we bought or that the service that we're going to get, I'm going to be there to facilitate delivering it on time and hopefully on budget. That's the plan.
So do you see you got the identification all the way through to delivery? Like, how is this actually, like, you got PSBC, you got D&D, you got the CAF, you got Treasury Board, you got PMO, PCO, like, just how are you going to wrangle all those folks together?
Well,
it's a monumental challenge.
Well, that's my life right now, because that's the $9.3 billion spend that was committed 2 months ago now. Is in addition to spending all the money, which we usually, D&D, or the machine usually lapses, between $1 billion and $2.5 billion every year. So we have to spend all that money plus the 9.3 if we want to hit 2%. That's the way the math works out, and I think it's about $63 billion. So, and we're doing it on the legacy system, the one that you just described. So I, right now, until the DPA gets its authorities, I'm running around trying to motivate the system to move at the speed it needs to move to hit the goal. We talked about 5%, we can get into that, but my immediate closest alligator to the boat is dispatching the money we committed to hit 2% by March 31st, 2026. We have to get that done. That's the plan.
We'll help you here. So, but just on that timeline, it is a monumental task. You have till March 31st. Can we expect to see, like, I'm just trying to think of timing here. We have defense industrial strategy, which I think is a key portion. We saw the Prime Minister this morning make an announcement with respect to pay increases, I think well-deserved, for the Canadian Armed Forces. We have the changes to the DPA there. So how does this all fit together, and how critical from your perspective is that defense industrial strategy? Is that the guide to a lot of this, or do we just need to get things out quicker? Like, just paint that picture.
So, in my mind, dispatching the things that are already in the hopper with the legacy system, soon to be the new system, is kind of what it is. The defense industrial strategy, which I think Wendy might have she briefed you on this morning, that's going to be the enabler to help industry look into the future. Like, what does industry need to start tooling up on, or developing, or investing in today to be able to meet a need in the short, medium, or long term for CAF, for example. So where are we headed? There's a number of industries that we could probably guess that we would go, but industry doesn't invest money on a maybe. They want more surety as to where they see their investments going, and that's what this is supposed to do, is provide some of that clarity on where we're headed.
So, Minister, I know you're Minister responsible for defense procurement. We only care about aerospace and we think it's the best, but you're talking to the Marine guys, you're talking, any common themes you're seeing? Do we all have the same issues, or is it sort of sector specific? You see sort of differences there? Like, you have a very broad view of the defense sector.
I think, obviously my background is aerospace, but the same pros and cons, in my opinion, lie across the board. I just spent 2 days going up to Victoria, and I was at C-SPAN. Unbelievable capability out there, but I think the concerns, it doesn't really matter if it's land, sea, air, space, is the same. We're not bringing industry in the tent in a way that we should or could. We're not leveraging industry in a way that we should or could. I was just in Burnaby yesterday, and I saw a little company who was making AIAC radar that's about, I don't know, 12 inches or 18 inches by 8 inches that works. It has like a 5mm resolution. And these things are modular, they work, it's not a science experiment, they have this. And I mean, I've been finding this type of capability everywhere I look. I was out in Quebec, Trois-Rivières, Montreal, Kelowna's got capacity, Cascade. We literally have unbelievable aerospace everywhere we go. We need to get everybody in the tent, working together to deliver on a timeline that actually matters. We are stuck on a hamster wheel of unhappiness, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but timely needs to be added onto whatever words we need or we want to talk about when we talk about defense procurement. Open, fair, transparent, and timely. I think it's just transparent and timely. If the government of Canada is going to make a decision to go somewhere, they just need to be real honest about why, and we need to move. And that's kind of the space that we're in right now.
This discussion is supported by Voyager Aviation, a Canadian company providing mission-critical aeronautical solutions, supporting Canada's defense operations at home and around the world.
So I agree that clarity from government. We often talk about COVID. Government gave timelines, clarity and capacities, capabilities, funding, and industry pivoted and delivered, and we can do amazing things if we're working together. A lot of the discussion we had over the past yesterday and today is cultural shift, and again, it's interesting to me. We've been pushing for an aerospace strategy, industrial strategy, a defense industrial strategy, and quite frankly, a year ago, we couldn't get politicians to say the word defense. And now that has totally flipped. Circumstances, yes, but I think a big part of that is leadership at the top. And that cultural change is starting to flow down. But are you sensing from officials, is that cultural change starting to take root? Are you getting pushback from departments? I'd be fascinated to get a peek behind the curtain there, whatever you can share.
Well, let's just say, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anybody here, but the machinery of government is generally resistant to change. This is why a DPA has never happened. Everyone's talked about it being a good idea, because it is a good idea, but the reason it hasn't happened is because it's hard. The reason it's going to happen, I have every confidence it is going to happen, and it's going to happen soon, is I think the relationship between Canada and the US is changed. That's a pretty big motivator for us to get up and change the way we respond to that. We're going to have a relationship with the US. There's no question they're an important partner of ours, and that's not going to change. But we're going to diversify our relationship. So that's a pretty big motivator. And we have a prime minister that wants it done. So I think the leadership perspective and the motivating factor are both there, and this is going to happen. Industry, we're going to spend a lot of money this year, next year, and the coming years, and we're going to build out the Canadian industrial complex in a way, this is the plan anyways, at a speed and magnitude we just haven't done it before, because we have to. Like, we don't have a choice here. I mean, look at what's going on around the world. We have to stand up on our own 2 feet, a little bit more than we've done in the past. I was in Europe with the Prime Minister and a couple other ministers for the Canada-EU Summit and the NATO Summit, and I gotta say, when I left there, the feeling that I had of certainly the Europeans, Australia was at the NATO Summit, although they're not part of NATO, but they were there, and I had a bylateral with the Minister of Defense there. Everybody wants to work with us. So part of my run around talking to industry isn't just to make our system better, because I think we can make it a lot better together, is to learn about what excess capacity we have in Canada, and we have a lot of it. Because the world, at least the Europeans, Southeast Asia, other parts of the world, they're in kind of like, let's get together and work together, because we have to do that right now. So the timing is really good. Countries are willing to spend on defense. Everybody wants to work together because the US is taking a different role in the world. They're not doing the traditional role that we're all used to. So all of this is lining up in a way that it just hasn't before. So I'm very, very bullish on what I think this could do for industry.
You mentioned the NATO. We actually opened up the summit with a discussion on NATO and the NATO Industry Advisory Group. And from my perspective, I've been getting more involved in NATO for the past 2-3 years. And this is the first year being in the room at the summit, at the industrial summit, where Canada was being spoken of in a positive light because of the new direction of the government. So that was a change from years past, but I couldn't agree with you more. I was at an industry dinner sitting next to a gentleman, large company, and he said to me, he says, for the first time, we've talked about Canada at the board for investments. And I thought, wow, I've never had that conversation before. But he was still looking, okay, what's the plan? I said, don't worry, we got a defense industrial strategy coming out, you can take a look at that. But you know, that's a tangible example of how industry, whether industry is based in Canada or internationally, is taking a look at this, and they're noticing the increased investment and the opportunity that's here, which is great. Question on industry and government. How do you've been out talking to industry, great, we have had great facilitated conversations here with the deputy, you know, taking questions from the audience, like just, so that has been a change, but how do you see industry and government in a maybe more structured manner of having those hard discussions as to what is required, what can we bring to the table, how do we do this, how do we get some of those impediments out of the way, security clearance, export permits, all these types of things. Do you have a sort of a vision as to how that's going to unfold, either through the defense industrial strategy or the DPA?
Well, I think it'll be both. I mean, the DIS, I've seen a placement of the DIS. It recently went from an MC to cabinet to a placement. They're working on it. That will come out shortly. So that's going to be a big roadmap to the how piece. Like I said, the DPA and me, this is, I mean, other than maintaining, I live in a swing riding, and it's hard to get elected in that riding, which means I gotta be in that riding and care and feed it, because that's a big part of my job. I can't do this unless I'm representing the people that have got me elected, and I take it pretty seriously. But when I've got my DPA hat on, or my minister hat on, I want to be in the trenches with industry delivering for Canada. We absolutely have to get this done. Like I mean, we're gonna spend a ton of money, and we have an economic problem that is pretty serious and could get, like, read the paper every day you wake up and you go, now what's happening? Like, we have the ability to leverage the capacity and technology that we have here. So I'm going to be super focused on that, delivering the things that like I mentioned, that are in the hopper and being delivered. How do we make those things happen quicker? The DIS is going to help hopefully add clarity to where industries can start spending money, or in the fighter world we call start lead turning where we're going, so you can meet with your capability or your widget or whatever, your aircraft or whatever you bring into the table. You can get out front and maybe take some bullish moves on investing in yourselves to make sure that you coincide with a need that you know is coming. Otherwise you'll never catch it. Like, you'll be lagged behind because the technology cycle happens so fast. You've got to figure out what's coming and get out in front of it. If you wait till, hey, we're looking for this, and you won't have time to spool up to catch it. You'll be behind the entire time.
I'm going to ask a couple of loaded questions here, so prepare yourself. First one, having gone across speaking with industry, do you have a vision of the capacity and capabilities you'd like to see here in Canada from an aerospace perspective? Anything that's jumping out at you that, strengths that we should be leveraging across the board?
On the big ticket items, I mean, there's big platforms that the government's been talking about. AEWC, that hasn't been built out yet. I think call it 6th gen or next gen, because the number is really relevant. Drones, AI, space, those are really going to be important. If you look at what's going on in Ukraine, that's what's keeping them in the fight, essentially, every single day. They are putting together commercial, they're fusing military capability and commercial capability at a speed that is unbelievable. And Russia's doing the same thing, but the way they're countering each other literally is the technology cycle is measured in weeks or months. We have to have the capacity to spool it up here. And a drone that we can build today that's awesome in a week or 2 or 3 may not be so awesome with some new technology, but we have the capacity to spin on a dime and keep adding capability to that type of technology.
Well, I know the Major General's happy because you guys are in sync, which is good because we talked about that earlier. But how can industry help government on some of these things with the speed of relevance, and what's the mechanism for industry to come and pitch, I guess, some of these initiatives, the innovation, because again, some of the things that I've seen across the board is government, one department will pour money into innovation, and then they're not the first buyer, or they are the first buyer, and then there's not export permits. Like, how do you see that sort of ecosystem from a business background, and what does industry need to give to government to say, okay, this is where we're going to go, this is some of the opportunities that we see?
I think more in terms of it's a relationship, right? So it's give and take on both sides. But I'm looking at more of how the government can change. That's kind of my responsibility. So what can we do? Technology is changing quickly. That is a thing, and it matters a lot. So we have programs like AIAC and others where there's a pretty good effort on help. Was that us? I don't know. Hello. We're good. So we have programs out there to help small to medium-sized businesses develop technology, but then the support kind of ends. And all of a sudden, there's no support or help to commercialize or militarize all these awesome ideas. We need to figure out how to do that, and I can get into a longer conversation about how I think we could do it. There's a number of ways, but we have to do that. The other thing that I've been talking to bigger companies, like OEM style or size, or big companies, is please get involved with the small to medium-sized enterprises in your area across the country. This big spend, if we're going to keep it in Canada, has to trickle down, and I hate to use that word, but it has to expand. I'll use another one, or to as many Canadian small businesses as we can. Aerospace out in the east is bigger than aerospace out in the west, but we still have equal or better capacity up here. We just don't have the volume. So when I'm talking to a big OEM and they may be getting some work, my question or my comment is, where's your supply chain? Where is it geographically? How far down does it go? If we're going to spend money here, I need to make sure it goes everywhere it can go in Canada, north, west, east, south, and I need to make sure that the small guys are brought into the tent in a way that's meaningful, the smaller companies.
Success breeds success across the board, and being intentional about how do you build out the Canadian capacity and capability.
Yeah, so I'm literally going to be in those. I'm in them now. I'm in those conversations right now. I'm in the weeds on this because I have to be in the weeds on this.
And it's interesting because one of the things we always talk about is aerospace is right across the country. And I still remember a number of years ago, I was invited to come up and speak in Salmon Arm about aerospace. And I thought, what? So we went to the province and we went across the board, and we didn't know of any aerospace companies in Salmon Arm. So I gave a bit of a talk to the chamber, and some folks come up and say, we want to show you our facility, and we're going down a dirt road, cows on either side, and this world-class machine shop is there with contracts with some of the big OEMs. So it's just everywhere in this country there's aerospace, and there's niche capabilities, capacities, and how do we build on that? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of skilled talent here. So maybe can you talk about the skill and the talent and the workers? I assume a lot of this is we want to create good paying jobs right across this country with the significant investments that the PM is making into defense. Is that a core piece there? How does that all fit in?
It has to be. We have to, if we're going to spend, again, add another 9.3 to the money that we already committed to spending $63 billion for 25, 26 in Canada. We need to make sure that we are, doing that. First of all, we have to meet the needs of the CAF. That's obviously the case. This isn't solely focused on Canadian industry, but this is not just about the CAF. It has to be about both. So yes, we need to deliver capability that the CAF wants, needs, and has to deliver on behalf of Canadians. But we have to be a lot more clear-eyed or deliberate about the Canadian industry piece because of the economic pressure that we're facing from the United States. It's pretty significant. If you're in steel, aluminum, auto, softwood lumber, those industries are really, really hurting big time right now. And there's a big announcement on softwood lumber, and there's been one from autos, and there's government of Canada support for those industries. But it's not insignificant. So the entire economic picture of the country needs to leverage everything that it can. One thing that became pretty clear to me about 2-3 months ago when the steel thing is just become what it is. We're building ships, we're building armored vehicles, we're gonna build more of all those things. We don't really have, we've got good steel capacity in Canada, but we don't have, I'll use a generic word, we don't make ballistic steel in Canada. Where do we get it from? We get it from the States. That's a problem. You can get it from Europe, but shipping steel isn't exactly all that efficient. So, you know, how do we engage our, like Algoma and some of our steel producers to produce the type of steel that we can make to, on the defense side, build ships or build armored vehicles or do other things? And I found something really interesting. I'm talking, I have a lot of questions. I'm like, how do the requirements come out for things like LAV-6s or pick an armored vehicle? And obviously the materials are specified in there, and on a piece of steel, it'll have the specs on the steel, but it used to have, or it still has, the manufacturer, because there really was only one or two, and it would, so that was a problem, because if we did start making, it'd be like me saying, hey Bill, make me a waterproof, or a Gore-Tex jacket, and you go, you really want a waterproof jacket, but if you say you want a Gore-Tex jacket, Gore-Tex is a brand, and you can only make a Gore-Tex jacket. Steel was kind of the same way. So we need to take like the manufacturer, put the specs in, so when we spool up Canadian ballistic steel manufacturing, whatever capacity we have can compete to provide the steel for our armored vehicles or our ships. So little things like that, like a Gore-Tex jacket, okay, here's your Gore-Tex jacket, but there's like 50 other types of materials you could use, things like that.
Minister, we're rapidly running out of time. I got 2 more questions for you. One hard, one maybe easy. So I'll go with the hard one first. Elephant in the room right now out there, F-35 contract. Can you give us an update? Or a review, I should say.
Yeah, no, it's still ongoing. I think there was some news in the media the other day. There still has been no decision made on that issue, and as soon as there is one, I'm sure everyone will be advised.
Okay, maybe not so hard a question for you then. I was hoping for more, but so maybe, Minister, just in closing, we really view you as an advocate for the industry writ large, and again, we're so pleased in that you are in the role, because I think you're purpose built for this role, in my opinion at least. We always come to you with complaints and recommendations and all these things, and you're going to be getting more recommendations on some of the pieces from the defense agency that you're developing. We've got a committee taking a look at that. But what's your advice to the industry? How can we help you be successful as you have this Herculean task ahead of you, which we're all cheering for and championing you in? But what's the challenge to the industry here? What can we do?
I think at this point it's probably more on my laps / our laps that make it easier for you, but I would, because there's a number of things that we can do and are going to do to do that, so I think it's more on us, but I would again go back to what I said earlier. Bigger companies, OEMs, that we're going to do big business with, build out your supply chain to the best of your ability across the country. Like, if you come to us and explain how you're going to deliver a capability, make sure you have, like the OEMs have capacity to do this. Find who can help leverage Canadian capacity underneath the OEM. That would be tremendously helpful for me, because I'm going to ask the question, and it's important that we do that. Everybody needs to have a seat at the table to the best of our ability. I'm going to try and remove the roadblocks. We never talked about Treasury Board, but that's my least favorite topic. That's on me. I'm going to try and have to figure out how to navigate that, but the process needs to happen quicker. You introduce risk when you go fast. I'm okay with that, because I'm going to be focused on this 100% of my time. So I think I can mitigate some of the risk on going quick, because I'm the single point of accountability, which everybody wants, and I used to joke about it, but be careful what you ask for, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to have to explain to the taxpayer why something worked or didn't work, or why we spent all this money and it was a fantastic investment, we're creating jobs, and we've got this fantastic capability and everyone's happy, and or if it goes sideways, and it does from time to time, why it went sideways. I'm focused on working with you to obviously make sure the latter doesn't happen. We can do this together, and we're gonna build out, again, the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Defence Industrial Complex at a magnitude and speed that you haven't seen before. And you're gonna see evidence of that really start to ramp up here when the House comes back.
Minister, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your willingness to engage with the industry, your candor, and really outlining some of your priorities. And I think that's very helpful for industry to get a sense of where your headspace is at. And again, just on behalf of the industry, anything we can do to make you successful, we will do. Your success is our success and vice versa. We're all in this together for the defense of our country. So again, thank you, and we really do appreciate the time you've spent here with us.
Thank you very much, and I'm around if people want to talk.
Support of this video was provided by Voyager Aviation, supporting Canada and allies and partners around the world.